8 years into our bond, I spotted a child at the kindergarten who looked uncannily like Malcolm, my mate. Malcolm had told me he was away on a business trip. However, then he was holding that child in his arms, gently coaxing him. "Be good, sweetheart. In a few days I'll bring you and your mom home. You're my only child. I'll never abandon you." The child smiled, content and trusting. I stood hidden around the corner, unable to breathe from the pain gripping my chest. 8 years ago, I had taken a silver blade to the stomach to save Malcolm. I lost my wolf that day, and with it the ability to ever carry a pup. Back then, Malcolm had sat beside my hospital bed and made a promise. "You are the only mate I will ever choose. Whether or not we have a pup doesn't change that." However, what I saw now felt like a brutal slap, a reality too sharp to ignore. What value would Luna have if she'd lost her wolf and could no longer bear heirs? How could I possibly compare to someone who could give him a child, and the pack, a future? Choking back the pain swelling in my chest, I picked up the phone and called my father. "Dad, would you still want a daughter who's lost her wolf?" His voice came through steady and sure. "Of course. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." "Honey, you were in my dreams again last night, but I still have 3 days before I can come home. I miss you terribly. Do you miss me?" My fingers trembled as they traced Malcolm Lloyd's words on my phone screen, and I could not stop the tears from spilling over. For the past 8 years, every April like clockwork, he would leave for a 2-week business trip to check on the overseas offices. I never questioned it. Malcolm's love for me felt so real. However, that picture on my phone, a father and son locked in an embrace, turned me into a complete joke. Business trip? More like a getaway with his mistress and their secret pup. If I had not visited the kindergarten today to make a donation and seen that kid call him dad, I would still be in the dark, playing for a fool. Maybe I should have seen the signs. Malcolm was the pack's alpha. The elders and his mother, the formidable lass Luna, would never stand for a Luna who could not have pups, who had lost her wolf. They must have planned that from the start. So what part did Malcolm, with all his declarations of love, really play? I knew the stakes. An heir meant everything to the pack. If he had just been upfront, I might have come to terms with him fathering children with another woman. Why would he trap me in a sham happiness with the sweetest of lies? Why would he treat me like an idiot? I crumpled to the floor, a searing pain in my heart as if pierced by 100 silver needles. I could not fathom how the boy who had grown up with me, who had vowed always to be my protector, could inflict such pain. At 15, Malcolm and I defied the adults and ventured into the misty forest to hunt. When danger loomed, he was always there to shield me. 3 days later, we walked out of that forest. I was untouched, but he bore the scars of our adventure, front and back. Tears streamed down my face as I called him a fool, but he just chuckled and held me close. "Mila, protecting you is my mission in life," he said with a smile that could light up the darkest night. His eyes back then, bright and clear as diamonds, had captivated me completely. We were set to marry, our future bright, until the eve of our wedding when his enemies took us captive. They tortured us, and I was left broken, my spirit, my wolf gone, and my body scarred by silver, unable ever to carry a pup. His mother and the pack's elders were quick to push for a broken engagement, but Malcolm stood firm. "Mila is my everything. I can live without children, but I can't live without her," he had said. However, in our world, where strength ruled, a Luna without her wolf, without the hope of new life, could command no respect. His mother had always looked down on me, and the pack refused to see me as one of their own. Still, for Malcolm, I bore the pain in silence. Then it all seemed so pointless. Malcolm must have sensed my hesitation because he called me just as I was lost in thought. Staring at the word husband on my phone, I answered with a bitter laugh. His voice was soft and concerned. "Honey, what's up? Why didn't you text me back? Did I upset you by staying out too long?" Once, I would have poured out my heart to him, but that desire had vanished. My silence spoke volumes and Malcolm panicked. "Are you mad? I'll come home right now. You're more important than any job." He had always put me first, a gesture that once touched my heart. Now, it only twisted the knife of betrayal deeper. "This is all a lie," I thought as I fought to keep my voice steady. No need, I'm just tired. I'm going to bed, I said and ended the call, the weight of my unspoken words heavy in the silence. The thought of hearing his voice again was too much. I knew one more word would shatter my composure, and the tears would come flooding out. I could not let a liar see me crumble. My pride would not stand for it. So there I was, alone in the echoing silence of the room, letting the tears fall until dawn's first light crept in. That was when I reached for the phone and called my dad. Dad, I'm ready to step in and run the family business. He must have picked up on the tremble in my voice because he gently prodded. Honey, I'm thrilled you want to take the reins, but you're a Luna. You have to help Malcolm lead his pack. Now you want to run the company too. Isn't that a lot to shoulder for one person? I paused, a lump forming in my throat, but my resolve was ironclad. I'm ending my mate bond with Malcolm. My dad did not pry into the reason for my split with Malcolm. Instead, he assured me with unwavering conviction that he would always be there, that the family business would always welcome me. Once we said our goodbyes, I pulled a document. From the deepest corner of the safe, a bonding dissolution agreement, already signed by Malcolm. It was his wedding gift to me, 8 years back. Mila, I love you truly. It doesn't matter if you're at your strongest or weakest, or that I'm just a regular werewolf or the pack alpha. In our love, you're always in charge. If I ever cause you a speck of unhappiness, you have the power to leave me, to let me live in agony. We were young and on fire for each other, convinced we would never need such an agreement. Yet today, I signed my name on that paper. It felt like a rusty blade was slowly carving out my heart, the pain blurring my vision. However, I steeled myself, tucked the agreement away, and stepped outside. Just one trip to City Hall. And in 3 days, Malcolm and I would be history. He would lose me forever, just like he said before. Stepping out of the villa, I barely had time to breathe in the fresh air when a car I knew all too well came hurtling down the driveway, stopping abruptly right in front of me. The door flew open, and out came Malcolm, looking like he had been through a marathon. His eyes were red and weary, but when he caught sight of me, his worry was unmistakable. Mila. He closed the distance in a few quick strides and wrapped me in a tight hug, no questions asked. What's going on? Why haven't you been answering my texts? I was caught off guard. It was not time for his return. He always came back after 2 weeks every year. What brought him back? So soon? He kissed my forehead gently, a whisper of regret in his touch. I'm sorry, honey. I shouldn't have left for so long. I promise, it won't happen again. Can you forgive me just this once? His voice was soft, almost pleading, and his green eyes held mine with such intensity. I felt like I was the only person in his world. For a split second, my heart skipped a beat for him again. However, then I saw them, the woman and child in the back seat. Maybe my stare was too fiery, too revealing, because Malcolm finally remembered he was not alone in the car. He coughed awkwardly, opened the door, and rushed to explain. This is James, the pup my mom adopted for us while she was abroad, and his nanny, Elaine Larson. You know how she's always been about us not having pups. She saw a pup who looked a lot like us and got carried away, adopting him without asking us first. However, don't worry if you're not okay with it, I'll turn her down and send them back. I was not blind. The boy was the spitting image of Malcolm as a child. There was no way he was adopted. It hit me then, after all those years of blind trust, that he had not even bothered to come up with a good lie. He thought I would fall for such a pathetic excuse. A wave of bitterness rose within me, and before I knew it, a single tear escaped down my cheek. Malcolm's reaction was immediate, his movements frantic as if he had been burned, trying desperately to wipe my tears. Honey, why the tears? Don't you like the little guy? I can send him away right now, okay? My lips quivered, and I fought to push down the bitterness rising in my throat. Before I could utter a word, a woman's voice cut through. Sir, the boy didn't want to worry you and wanted you to come home early to see Mrs. Lloyd, so he didn't say a word about feeling unwell. He's running a fever now. What? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Malcolm's face turned stormy in an instant. He shoved me aside, scooped up the child, and marched into our home, barking orders at the maid. Get Mr. Porter here now. Unprepared, I stumbled and fell, my palm scraping against the ground, the sting making me gasp. However, the physical pain was nothing compared to the sting of Malcolm's dismissal. So for that child, he could discard me as easily as one kicks a pebble out of the way. Elaine, with a sly twist of her hips and a smirk, helped me to my feet and murmured in my ear, "Mila, just between us, James is Malcolm's and my little secret." In that instant, the pain in my hand and the ache in my heart vanished into a surreal numbness. The hurt from the betrayal, the fight against the injustice, it all fell away into silence. I did not scream, nor did another tear fall. Swallowing the pain, I straightened my clothes with the last shred of grace I had left, ignoring the smug Elaine, and turned to make my way to the city hall. By the time I got back, Frank Porter had already seen to James, giving him something to bring the fever down. Frank was not just Malcolm's trusted doctor. He was like a brother to him. He watched Elaine, perched on the edge of the bed, gently dabbing at James's forehead with a tenderness that did not sit right with him. In a hushed tone, he questioned Malcolm. "Malcolm, I don't understand. Didn't you say that once you had the pup, you'd send her packing? Why bring her home? What if Mila finds out about her identity?" Malcolm's eyes lingered on his son, a mix of exhaustion and resignation in his gaze. "What choice do I have? James won't let her out of his sight. Every time I try to separate them, he gets sick. He's my only heir. I can't keep him away forever." "It's fine. Let's leave it. She gave me a son after all. I can't just ignore her. We'll have her stay on as a nanny. It'll keep James happy, and she won't be out there getting pushed around. And Mila," he hesitated, then bolstered himself with a firm tone. "She trusts me completely. As long as I'm careful, she'll never suspect a thing." Seeing Malcolm so adamant, Frank dropped the subject, gathered his things, and headed out the door. "Mila." His shock was palpable when he saw me, the medicine box nearly crashing to the floor. Malcolm was right behind him, his composure shattered, eyes darting nervously as he read my face. "Honey, when did you get back? Did you hear anything?" He knew, just as I did, that what he was doing was a dark secret, a lie that could not stand the light. Yet he had brought her home, hiding behind the pretense of adoption and the role of a nanny to fool me. I could not help but laugh at the absurdity, my voice steady and smooth. "I just got back. Was there something I was supposed to hear? Or was it something you didn't tell me? How could you think that?" Malcolm gave Frank a nod to move ahead, then pulled me into a warm embrace, his head nuzzling my neck with affection. "Honey, you know how much I love you. It breaks my heart when you doubt me. You owe me one." I always adored how he could be so commanding out in the world, yet turn into a big kid the moment he stepped through our door. It used to make me feel like I was the only one, someone truly special to him. However, all I felt now was a deep ache in my chest. I gently pushed him away. "Okay, I'm beat. I'm heading upstairs." Malcolm, still thinking I was upset over the whole James thing, stuck to me like glue, his voice laced with worry as he tried to explain. "Honey, James really is my mom's adopted pup. If his being here bothers you, I'll have her take him back right now. Let him stay." I could not bear another minute of his patronizing lies, not with just 3 days left, so I cut him off mid-sentence. Malcolm was taken aback by my response, but he quickly sought reassurance. "Honey, are you sure you're okay with him staying?" I nodded, offering him a weary smile. "Of course. The pack needs an heir. Mom has done the right thing. Malcolm, we should be grateful that she brought us a pup who looked so much like you. You're always looking out for me, Mila. I'll love you forever." He pressed a tender kiss to my forehead. "Don't worry. I'll make sure James learns to respect you just like he would his own mom." That was a fantasy. No young one would ever see another woman as their mother. Elaine certainly would not have it. However, I did not burst his bubble. I just nodded along. "Yeah, I believe you. Also, since you've chosen him as your successor, it's time to hold the ceremony and introduce him to everyone. Why don't we do it during the Blood Moon Festival in 3 days? Our Pax fighters will be at Austin Castle. It's the perfect occasion for the ceremony, don't you think?" Malcolm harbored some doubts about my quick acceptance of James, but the overwhelming joy of fulfilling his ambition smothered those slight uncertainties. Ah, Mila, you've thought of everything. I'll tell James the great news and remind him to thank his clever mother." He left, beaming with happiness, while I walked away in the opposite direction, our paths and hearts diverging more with each step. "Malcolm, in 3 days you'll gain an heir, but you'll also lose me forever," I mused. In the following days I barely left my room except to eat. I also kept myself busy by packing my belongings. Malcolm was lost in the bliss of having an heir, consumed with planning the perfect ceremony for James. He was completely unaware of my intentional withdrawal and silence. It was not until the morning of the ceremony, after I had quietly finished my breakfast and was about to head upstairs, that Malcolm, adorned in the silver battle regalia of the Pack's supreme authority, called out to him. He strode past Elaine and James, took my hand with a look of concern and asked, "Honey, what's the matter? Why haven't you changed into your dress? Did you forget about the ceremony today?" I gave a nonchalant shrug, nodding toward Elaine, who was dressed in a gown matching his, and replied with a steady voice, "Forget? How could I? The Pack is finally getting an heir. It's not something I'd forget. However, I have a feeling James would rather have Elaine, who's been by his side all this time, join him for the ceremony." Malcolm's eyes finally landed on Elaine, all dolled up and looking like she was headed to a gala. He frowned, his voice dropping an octave as he started to grill her. "Elaine, who allowed you to?" However, before he could finish, a kid's voice cut him off. Little James stood his ground in front of Elaine, bravely facing off with Malcolm. "Dad, you made a pinky promise. You'd never split me and Elaine up. If Elaine can't come with me to the big ceremony, then count me out." James's bold stance said it all. Malcolm was totally wrapped around his finger. Malcolm paused, then turned to me with a look that was all apologies. "James is still new here, and without any friends. I'm worried he'll get spooked. Let's just say yes to Elaine tagging along, okay?" He seemed worried I would get the wrong idea, so he quickly said, "However, just so we're clear, you're my Luna, the star of the ceremony, and that's set in stone." "Sure. Who'd be heartless enough to tear a little guy away from his mom?" My words seemed to sting Malcolm. His eyes darted around, panic-stricken, as he clutched my hand. "You're James's mom, remember?" I gave him a reassuring smile. "I know. I still need an eternity to get glammed up and slip into my dress. You go on with James. Don't keep Mom and the elders waiting. You know how pumped she is to see him." Right on cue, the head of the guards outside announced that the old Luna was already on her way, clearing any doubts Malcolm had left. "Be quick," he said, scooping up James and heading for the door. Elaine, looking pleased as punch, straightened her silver gown and tossed a snooty scoff my way. "Malcolm, James, and I are the real deal, a family of 3. Someone like you, who can't even have pups, has no business standing next to Malcolm." With a smug look, she strutted away. Meanwhile, I slipped away quietly, lugging 2 suitcases behind me. Under the glow of the blood moon, Austin Castle was decked out in all its solemn and opulent glory. The werewolf pack's bravest fighters and elders were all there, waiting for Malcolm to step up and introduce his successor to the world. However, with just 3 minutes to go before the ceremony, Mila had still not arrived. Worry and annoyance creased Malcolm's forehead. "Where is Mila? She's supposed to crown the heir with you, using the wolf fang crown. Without her, what's going to happen to the ceremony? Doesn't she realize how important today is? She's making a mockery of our pack's honor." The elder running the show could not hide his irritation. Malcolm pulled out his phone and tried Mila's number again. "Mila's not one to bail. Something must have held her up. I'll try her again. Just give us a moment. If she's not here by now, she might as well not show up at all." The old Luna's face turned to stone as she clutched her scepter, and she glanced at Elaine, who had been by James's side the whole time. Then she gave the elder her final word. "Elaine will join Malcolm in crowning James." "I don't think so." Malcolm gripped his phone, fighting back his rage, and shouted, "Mom, Mila is my mate, the Pack's Luna. She's not worthy." The old Luna's piercing eyes bore into Malcolm, unyielding. "Who else but you would take in a reject who had lost her wolf? Which Pack would welcome a Luna who couldn't even have pups? We've put up with her for too long. And today of all days she's a no-show on purpose." Does she even deserve to be our Luna anymore? Malcolm, as your mother, I order you to crown James with Elaine. Mother. Malcolm tried to say something, but the old Luna cut him off with a look that pinned him in place. Malcolm, are you really going to mess up James's big day? Remember, he's your only pup. You want him to be the laughingstock in front of all our fighters and elders? That he's without his mom's blessing. Malcolm glanced at the closed door, then at James, who was all dressed up and clueless yet buzzing with excitement. He took in the expectant looks from the elders and his own mother, and he could not help but feel bitter toward Mila. He could not fathom it. Mila was the one who had pushed for James's ceremony, so why was she making him deal with that mess? He looked away, defeated, and grabbed Elaine's hand. His voice was heavy with exhaustion and a twisted sense of relief. All right, Elaine will stand in for Mila at the ceremony. Elaine's eyes sparkled with unrestrained joy and ambition. She cozied up to Malcolm, looking at him with a love that was almost too intense. However, right in the middle of the ceremony, as Malcolm and Elaine were crowning James and the excitement was at its peak, everyone's phones buzzed with an urgent alert. Under the laws of the werewolf community, the severance of the bond between Alpha Malcolm and Luna Mila is official. As of noon, they are nothing to each other. Malcolm had not even checked his phone, still tucked away in his pocket, but the whispers and sidelong glances from the crowd sent a wave of panic through him. Ignoring the ceremony in full swing, he yanked out his phone, one glance and his face ashen. No, this can't be happening. Mila wouldn't leave me. The crown slipped from his grasp, clattering to the floor. Malcolm stumbled down the stage, his voice a desperate plea as he said, I won't accept this, Mila. I won't let you go. Elaine clutched at Malcolm's arm, her voice laced with alarm as she said, Malcolm, are you really going to ruin James's succession ceremony? How could you bear to break his heart? James, Malcolm's only pup, had always been a compelling reason for his compromise. However, not at that moment. Malcolm shook off Elaine's grip without a second glance at James, shifted into his wolf form and bolted for home. He was met with nothing but an empty room, every trace of Mila gone. When I finally arrived home after 6 hours, my father was there waiting in the foyer. He did not question the end of my bond with Malcolm. He pulled me into a firm embrace and handed me the badge of the family's business heir. Just like always, he said with that unwavering belief in his voice. Go on, my pup, follow your heart. It was as if he were not handing the reins to the mightiest werewolf business empire, but just another present to delight me. The very next day, I dove into learning how to run the empire. With my father's unwavering support and guidance, I swiftly reclaimed the keen, decisive spirit that had once earned me the reputation of a born entrepreneur. In just 1 month, I spearheaded a team that clinched a pivotal international merger, expanding our business empire by 1/3. At the extravagant victory banquet, my father lavished me with praise. Mila, you've done an outstanding job. You're the pride of our family. Yet his earnest commendation took me back to the 8 years I spent as Malcolm's wife. Fresh into our marriage, I refused to be the has-been who had lost her edge. I was determined to leverage my knack for business to enhance his pack's ventures, to add value to his pack. However, when I unveiled the investment proposal I had painstakingly crafted over endless nights, it was met with his mother's biting sarcasm. A barren woman has no business meddling in the pack's finances. Mind yourself. The pack's elders dismissed me with thinly veiled disdain. Mila, as a Luna, your main duty is to care for the alpha. Leave the rest to us. Then there was Malcolm's tender rejection. Honey, I hate to see you strain yourself. My smarts, my savvy, they all faded into insignificance once I became Malcolm's wife. I even tried to persuade Malcolm that I could make investments with my own money, without dipping into the pack's coffers. However, he would not have it. Mila, marrying you was already an act of defiance against my mother and the elders. If they caught wind that you weren't the docile housewife they expected, it would only make things worse. You wouldn't want to put me in a tough spot, would you? Back then, love had blinded me so much that I had sheathed my claws, my inner fierceness. In hindsight, it seemed Malcolm stopped seeing me as his equal the moment I lost my edge. His idea of a mate was more akin to keeping a pet. Thankfully, my family was there to support me, helping me rediscover myself. I stood tall, basking in my father's praise, and replied with a newfound confidence. I'll strive even harder to bring more value to our business. Speaking of which, Miss Mila, would you be interested in the role of our pack's financial officer? A voice I knew all too well suddenly chimed in on the conversation with my father. I glanced up, a mischievous grin playing on my lips. Oh, has our esteemed Bright Moon Pack's alpha, Mr. Ellis, not mastered the art of management yet? Theodore Ellis, the alpha of the Bright Moon Pack, had been my closest friend before Malcolm came into the picture. His dad was not exactly a whiz at running things, and they would often come to my dad for advice. As a kid, I had cheekily swindled all the candy from his pockets, and he would laugh and praise me, saying, Mila, you're so clever. When I take over the pack, you'll be my financial officer, okay? All the money I make will be yours. I never thought he would still remember that. Exactly. You know I don't have your knack for business, Mila. So how about it? Take pity on me and agree to be my financial officer. Theodore said, batting his eyelashes at me, hope written all over his face. I was just about to respond when a guard burst in with urgent news. Miss, there's a Mr. Lloyd at the door demanding to see you. He's incredibly strong, and we may not be able to hold him off much longer. I had nothing left to say to Malcolm, yet I could not bear to dampen the spirits of the others, so I reluctantly stepped outside. A month had gone by, and Malcolm looked like he had been through the ringer. His shirt clung to him in crumpled defeat, his pants smeared with dust. The once vibrant green eyes were then red with strain, and his chin, once smooth, bristled with uneven stubble. Mila. His eyes sparked to life when he saw me, and he hurried over, arms outstretched for a hug. I've finally found you. I edged back, dodging his embrace, and folded my arms, facing him with a cool gaze. Mr. Lloyd, what urgent matter has caused you to crash into my home? I didn't. He was quick to deny it, pointing an accusing finger at the guards. I tried to see you so many times, but they kept blocking me. I had no choice but to fight my way in. Noticing my frown, he hastily added an apology. Honey, please don't be mad, okay? I'll make it right with them and cover all the medical bills. I wanted no more drama with him, so I cut to the chase, saying, Is there something you need? If not, you should leave. Honey, you can't do this to me. I've been out of my mind searching for you this whole month. You can't just kick me out. Won't you come back home with me? His eyes, pleading, mirrored the despair of a creature left behind. You don't like James, right? I've sent him to my mother. We can adopt him without having him live with us. Mila, I only need you. I'm nothing without you. Please come home with me. Malcolm, even now you're still lying to me. I could not help but let out a bitter laugh, pulling my lips into a sneer. You really think I'm clueless? That I don't know James is your pup with Elaine? Your so-called business trip every April, you were with them. For 8 years, you've spun a web of lies. It's not what you think. Malcolm's face turned ghostly white, his body shaking uncontrollably, his voice laced with sheer terror. I never meant to lie to you. It was my mother, the elders. They wouldn't let me marry you. Having a pup with Elaine was their only condition, and I felt trapped into agreeing. I was too scared to tell you. I was scared you'd see me as weak, scared you'd leave me for fathering a pup with another woman. Mila, you have to believe in my love for you. I did everything for us to stay together. By sidelining my feelings for the sake of the pup, keeping Elaine close, letting her be part of the heir ceremony. Is that your way of loving me? I let out an icy laugh, shattering his facade. Malcolm, love is about carrying the load together, not lying. You never even asked if I could handle you having a pup with someone else. Why did you just assume I'd be mad, be hurt? Because you didn't get me, or maybe you had only ever loved the healthy Mila, the one with the strong wolf inside. The sick me didn't even deserve an equal conversation in your eyes. That must be why you felt bold enough to deceive me, to play me for a fool. And today you didn't come here out of love. You couldn't stand the thought of a disabled woman like me having the nerve to walk away from you. Malcolm would not take my words lying down. He stepped closer, his grip on my arm iron tight, his growl desperate. Mila, why would you question my love like that? Don't you know what I've given up to be with you? You can't do this to me. Mila, you're meant to be mine, and you have to come home with me. I was wrong to deceive you. I realize that now. When we return, I promise to make everything right. Stripped of my wolf, I stood no chance against Malcolm's might. He clutched my arm so tightly it throbbed with pain. No matter how hard I fought, I could not escape his grasp. I was about to summon the guards when a sudden, fierce power surged, sending Malcolm hurtling through the air. Theodore stood firm, pulling me to safety behind him, his eyes blazing with fury as he faced Malcolm. You'll have to get through me if you want to hurt Mila. Is he the reason you won't come home with me, Mila? Malcolm forced himself up from the ground, blood trickling from his mouth. His eyes seemed to seethe with malice as he glared at Theodore and me, his laugh bitter and scornful. You think I only loved you when you were well. So, does he love you now that you've lost your wolf? Now that you can't have pups? My pack won't accept a Luna who's not whole. Yet you think his pack will? Mila, don't be so naive. He and I are both pack alphas. We need a Luna who can fight and bear pups. He can't offer you the equality you're looking for either. In that moment, Malcolm's true colors came to light, revealing that he had never truly valued me. His so-called love was worthless without the value I brought to him and his pack. However, I was no longer hurt. My family and my father had instilled in me a sense of worth and bravery. They showed me that even without my wolf, even without the ability to have pups, I was still the finest werewolf, the pride of my family and my father, who said that leaving him meant I had to pair up with someone else. The equality I had been seeking, I could give it to myself. I was ready to hit back with my own words, but Theodore beat me to it. From his towering stance, he looked down at Malcolm with utter contempt in his voice. You think everyone's like you? Too scared to break free from the elder's grip, letting them pull the strings on who you can marry? If Mila says yes to being my mate, she's free to live her life her way. I'll be her devoted wolf, ready to take down anyone who dares to challenge us. And pups? The pack's full of them. We'll adopt her favorite. Easy, right? And let's get one thing straight. Mila has the sharpest business mind among werewolves. You can't pin her worth on pups and pack status. Only a fool confuses the majestic moon for a dim firefly. That was when Malcolm's facade crumbled, his face a mix of spite and scorn, giving way to sheer panic and a hollow void. He stared at me, his eyes brimming with helplessness and sorrow. Mila, am I really about to lose you? I faced him, my eyes steady, and gave a calm nod. The moment I signed those papers, you were history. A single tear traced Malcolm's reddened eye as he stammered, saying, Mila, I messed up, I get it now, I really do. It's too late for apologies. Get out of here. Theodore stepped in, a solid wall between Malcolm and me, his voice icy with warning. Alpha Malcolm, you barged into my bright moon territory without a word to me. You even hurt my men. Leave now, or I won't hesitate to throw you down. With Theodore's raw power and clear intent to protect at all costs, Malcolm staggered away, a broken man. Word on the street was that not long after he left our turf, his old enemies jumped him. However, no one was there to take the hit for him. He was left with deep scars from a silver blade, and with those scars he had lost the essence of his wolf forever. After dragging himself back to the pack, his own mother and the pack elders declared him a lost cause and stripped him of his alpha title. Even Elaine, who had once looked at him with eyes full of love, and the young one he had cherished, turned their backs on him. Overwhelmed by his pain, he locked himself in his castle, numbing his heartache with bottle after bottle. In his drunken stupor, they said he would call out for me. However, I let those rumors wash over me without a second thought. I had my hands full and no energy to spare for a werewolf who had once played me for a fool. I took up Theodore's offer to manage the pack's finances, seeing as he was as clueless about investments as he had always been. Before I knew it, 2 years had zipped by, and I had whipped the pack's and our family's businesses into shape, tripling their worth. Then one day, Theodore showed up at my office, a mix of hope and hurt in his eyes. Mila, do you have time to talk about love today? I could not help but laugh, a bright, bold sound, and playfully tousled the wolf ears he had perked up just for me. Let's go on a date, my alpha.